Why is milk packaged in square cartons while cola comes in round bottles? You've probably never thought about it, but once you understand it, you'll start to see through half the patterns of the world. In today's video, I'll give you 5 examples to help you think like an economist. Why is water, which can save lives, so cheap while diamonds, which are mostly for display, are incredibly expensive? Why are women's buttons on the left and men's on the right? Why can the same cup of coffee cost one person $6 and another just $2, while the seller already knows exactly which type of customer you are? These questions may seem unrelated, but behind them lies the same underlying logic. After watching this, the way you see things will change, because you'll realize that nothing in this world happens by coincidence. Every phenomenon is the result of incentives. Now back to the first question. Why is milk packaged in square cartons and cola in round bottles? Let's first eliminate a common wrong answer. It's not because square cartons are cheaper. In fact, for the same volume, cylindrical containers are more cost-efficient than rectangular ones. So, why use square cartons for milk? The answer lies in the concept of marginal cost. Milk needs refrigeration. It must be stored in supermarket fridges, and fridge space is scarce. Cooling costs money. Square cartons make better use of that limited space, reducing gaps and allowing more milk to be stored in the same fridge. Cola, on the other hand, doesn't require refrigeration. It sits on regular shelves, where space is much cheaper. In this case, the space saved by square packaging isn't worth giving up the advantages of round bottles. What advantages? Round bottles are more comfortable to hold. Cola is often drunk directly from the bottle, so grip matters. Milk, however, is usually poured into a cup or bowl, so ergonomics are less important. You see, even for something as simple as liquid containers, different usage scenarios and cost structures lead to completely different optimal choices. This is the first lesson of economics. Every choice is the optimal solution under constraints. The key is not what's better, but what's more cost-effective. This way of thinking can explain countless phenomena. Why are women's buttons on the left and men's on the right? Because when buttons were first invented, wealthy women had maids to dress them. The maid, facing the lady, would use her right hand to fasten buttons, so the buttons were placed on the lady's left side. Men, however, dressed themselves. Using their right hand, buttons were naturally placed on the right side. Hundreds of years have passed, and the habit remains because no one wants to bear the cost of changing the standard. Why do 24-hour convenience stores still have locks on their doors? Because these stores weren't originally designed to operate 24 hours a day. Doors are mass-produced, and every standard door comes with a lock. Customizing a door without a lock would actually cost more. This is how economists see the world. They don't ask, why is it like this? They ask, what makes it cost-effective for it to be this way? Once you understand this, you can start to see through many of the hidden tricks behind pricing. Take the same cup of coffee. Why does one person pay $6 while another pays just $2? It's not because they're buying different products. It's the same Starbucks, the same latte. But students get student discounts. Members get member pricing. Delivery apps offer subsidized prices. Promotions like buy one get one free create yet another price. Is this fair? An economist would say it's perfectly fair. This phenomenon is called price discrimination. Discrimination sounds negative, but in economics, it's a neutral term. It simply means charging different prices to different people. Why do businesses do this? Because different people have different willingness to pay for the same product. A busy office worker might be willing to pay $6 for a cup of coffee, while a student might only be willing to pay $2. If the coffee had only one price, set it at $6 and you lose the student market. Set it at $2 and you leave money on the table from office workers. So what's the optimal strategy? charge each person the highest price they're willing to pay. That's the logic of price discrimination. But how do businesses know how much each person is willing to pay? They can't just ask everyone would claim they're broke. So instead, businesses design mechanisms that let customers reveal themselves. The classic example: coupons. Why not just lower the price directly? Why make people clip coupons? Because those willing to spend time collecting coupons are more price sensitive, they have lower willingness to pay. Those who don't bother likely value their time more and are willing to pay a higher price. Coupons act as a self-selection filter. Airline tickets are another example. Why are tickets cheaper a month in advance, but more expensive right before departure? Because early buyers are usually leisure travelers, price sensitive. Last-minute buyers are often business travelers, time sensitive, less concerned about price. And why is popcorn so expensive at movie theaters? Because the ticket is a traffic-driving product. Popcorn is where the profit is made. People who are willing to buy overpriced popcorn are showing a high willingness to pay for the overall experience, so the theater earns more from them. You see, price discrimination isn't about ripping people off. It's about maximizing efficiency. Everyone gets the product at a price they're willing to accept, and businesses still make money. But this leads to a deeper paradox. Why are some things that are incredibly useful so cheap, while others that seem almost useless are ridiculously expensive? In the history of economics, there's a famous question called the diamond water paradox. Water is essential for life. Without it, you die. Diamonds, aside from looking beautiful, have little practical use. So why are diamonds thousands of times more expensive than water? This question puzzled economists for centuries until one concept was introduced: marginal utility. What is utility? It's the satisfaction something brings you. What is marginal utility? It's the additional satisfaction you get from consuming one more unit of something. Water has extremely high total utility. But because it's so abundant, if you've already had 8 glasses today, the 9th glass gives you almost no extra satisfaction. Diamonds have low total utility. But because they are so rare, you might only buy one in your lifetime, and that one brings you a huge amount of satisfaction. Prices don't reflect total value. They reflect marginal value. This principle explains many things that seem irrational. Why are celebrities paid so much? Not because they work 10,000 times harder than ordinary people, but because top-tier stars are extremely scarce and hard to replace. Replace them with anyone else, and the box office could drop by millions. Why do programmers' salaries rise so quickly? Not because coding is more noble than manual labor, but because their marginal output is massive. A great programmer can write code that serves hundreds of millions of users, while even the best construction worker can only move so many bricks in a day. Why are limited editions so ridiculously expensive? Because scarcity itself creates marginal utility. When there are only 100 items in the world, owning one dramatically increases the satisfaction. That's the truth behind the diamond water paradox. Scarcity determines price, not usefulness. The most expensive things in the world are often not the most useful ones, but the hardest ones to obtain. But here's the twist. Sometimes, even when everyone knows what the optimal choice is, collective decisions can still lead to disaster. Have you ever had this experience? You go to a concert. The person in front of you stands up. Then the person behind you stands up too. Eventually, the whole crowd is standing. But no one can actually see better than when everyone was sitting. Everyone made the best choice for themselves. If the person in front stands and you don't, you can't see. But when everyone makes the optimal choice, the result is that everyone is more tired, and no one benefits. This is what economists call a collective action problem. Individual rationality, when added together, can lead to collective stupidity. This kind of dilemma is everywhere in life. Why do parents send their kids to extra tutoring classes? Not because tutoring is always effective, but because everyone else is doing it. If you don't, your child falls behind. But when everyone does it, rankings don't change. Families just spend thousands more, and kids lose hundreds of hours of sleep. Why do big companies spend so much on advertising? Not because ads increase total demand, but because if you don't advertise, your competitors will take your market. When every company advertises, market shares stay roughly the same, but everyone ends up with higher costs. Why is everyone obsessed with degrees? 30 years ago, a bachelor's degree was rare. Now, master's degrees are everywhere. The value of degrees has dropped, but no one dares to stop. Because if you do, you fall behind. This kind of situation has another name, an arms race. Just like during the Cold War, when the United States and the Soviet Union kept building nuclear weapons, in the end, both sides had enough weapons to destroy the world many times over. Yet neither side dared to stop first. So how do you escape this kind of trap? Economics gives one answer: change the incentive structure. At concerts, rules could be set stand up and you get fined. In education, evaluation systems could be redesigned to reduce the rewards of excessive competition. But here's the harsh reality. Most of the time, no one has the power to change the rules. We are all trapped in collective stupidity. This is one of the most unsettling insights in economics. Rational individuals can form irrational groups. But there's an even more subtle trap. There's an old saying in economics: there's no such thing as a free lunch. Yet many people don't believe it. How could something free possibly have a cost? That misunderstanding is one of the biggest misconceptions about cost. Cost is not just the money you pay. It also includes the opportunities you give up, the time you spend, the privacy you lose, and the debts you'll have to repay in the future. These are called hidden costs. And very often, the cheaper something seems, the higher its hidden costs. Why do internet products love to be free? Because you are paying with your privacy, your browsing history, your spending habits, your social connections. All of it is packaged and sold to advertisers. The value of that data is far greater than you imagine. Why are free trials always so generous? Because your attention is a scarce resource. They use free to pull you in, then design the experience to keep you hooked. In the end, you often pay far more than if you had just bought it up front. Why do people keep falling for zero-cost scams? Because free shuts down your rational thinking. The moment you hear no cost, your brain switches into bargain mode and automatically ignores the risks. There is an even deeper kind of free trap: distorted incentives. When something is free, people treat it very differently. If healthcare were completely free, people might take less care of their health, because getting sick costs nothing. If shared bikes were completely free, people would leave them anywhere, because it's not their money. Free can erode responsibility. This is exactly what economists struggle with when designing systems. How do you let people benefit from public resources without encouraging abuse? How do you make people bear some cost without excluding the poor? There is no perfect answer, only trade-offs. But one principle is certain. Whenever someone tells you something is free, your first reaction should be caution, not excitement. Because nothing is truly free. Either you've already paid for it, you just didn't realize it, or you will pay later, and often much more. Nothing in this world is accidental. Every outcome you see is driven by incentives. Milk is packaged in square cartons because storage efficiency incentivizes it. Prices vary from person to person because profit maximization drives price discrimination. Diamonds are more expensive than water because scarcity shapes marginal utility. Everyone is caught in endless competition because the rules of the game make it too costly to stop. And free is the most dangerous of all because the incentives behind hidden costs are often not in your favor. Economics is not about teaching you how to make money. It's about helping you understand how the world works. When you start to see the world through incentives, things that once seemed irrational begin to make sense. Problems that once felt unsolvable start to reveal possible paths. You stop asking, "Why is this unfair?" and start asking, "What incentives made it this way?" And what incentives would change the outcome? That is the real power of economics. In a world full of noise and illusion, clarity itself is a rare advantage. That's all for today. See you next time.